Greetings. This is Celebration. My name is John Savers. I'm your host. And today we'll continue with our series, Jews and Their Culture. Now, for those of you new to Celebration, let me just say this much, that this is a program which focuses on peoples and their cultures and tries to have a better understanding of a given people, a given culture, try to unearth new and interesting aspects. Now, we understand that for most people there is a general knowledge of the various peoples and culture, and that this general knowledge is generally of a positive sort, information that can be picked up from a diverse source group, anything from travel programs on TV to even television programs of an adventurous type that take place in various settings. Well, at any rate, there are numerous ways in which you can get a sense or feel for a culture and a people, and we understand this, and we accept that probably the bulk of the presentations are reasonable. But at any rate, we are not really trying to go where other people have gone in massive numbers, but to find some information to sort of round out the picture. We think that there are material omissions, and it's possible sometimes when a group is very powerful that rather considerable omissions of a negative kind are excluded from general knowledge. We're not sure that this is a good idea. Of course, everyone, I guess, to a certain extent, would like to leave skeletons in the closet, dust under the rug, sleeping dogs lie, and all that. But still, it is the nature of this particular program to go where no man has gone before. So, or few, I'll put it that way. We are, of course, a program which utilizes sources, so obviously somebody has gone there before, but not too many people know about it. So this is basically our thrust. We use little-known sources, unashamedly, out of print books and so forth. We have discovered that often even people who have an antipathy toward other people, that in their diligent anger, shall we say, or hostility, they have a way of unearthing little nuggets of gold, so to speak, in terms of enlightenment. There's nothing like motivation, and it's unfortunate, but hate is also a motivating force. And when somebody is in this frame of mind and is digging at the earth and so forth, sometimes they unearth a diamond or a gold nugget or something of this sort. So we're not afraid to use this if we think it is of value. We do try to put forth that which is reasonable and something that seems credible. Now, we of course use source books, and we try to have people of both sides, as it were, contribute. People, sources from within the group that we're looking at, and people from without, the credible observer from the past and the present. So we think with all of these tools, so to speak, we have been able to give the viewers of our program on Channel 10 in Fairfax County a better understanding and a rounder understanding. And when it's all said and done, the people and the culture become more real because of this effort. Now, in the past, in looking at Jews and their culture, we have first and foremost taken a look at Jews according to the flesh, And subsequently, we have moved to Jews according to ideas. And this is a large group, and there are varying ideas that pop up, so to speak. But we are presently looking at what we feel are dominant modes of thinking found in the Talmud and the Kabbalah. And we feel that these are two prime sources affecting political philosophy as well as religion. It's a kind of a way of life which generally falls under the concept of culture. So we're going to do that again. We're not really leaving the Kabbalah per se, but we are going to kind of go on a little tangent, so to speak, because of the Kabbalah opens up occult areas within the Jewish culture, and there may also, we recognize, be some dispute as to what is occult and what is not. So we understand that we are proceeding on what we view as occult, and we'll let the people judge for themselves, understanding there is a certain subjectivity here. Now, we're going to take a look at an area which few people other than Jews, and probably only a small section of Jews at that, are really familiar with, and this is the guardian angel, so to speak, concept within Jewry, occult Jewry, the Kabbalah, and so forth, referred to by the adepts as Sar, S-A-R. So let's do that now. What is a Sar? A Sar is an angelic patron or guardian prince assigned to each of the nations on earth. This assignment proves to be of great importance. According to some sources, the allotment of a nation's territorial portion was deemed to be contingent upon the number of its celestial ministers. However, of even greater significance was the fact that the state and fate of a nation was viewed as being directly contingent upon the state and fate of its celestial minister. As the rabbis taught, a nation does not fall until such time as its Sar falls first. For my sword hath drunk its fill in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Edom. This is a citation from Elijah, Judah, Shachet, Amalek, the enemy within, pages 151, 152. Now, I think that the more discerning of our TV viewers will find that comment about Edom rather droll. But I will also say that some people who have found the information which I have presented are rather far out, have then kind of tabbed or labeled the messenger, so to speak, is far out. People, I am trying to give those who have some intelligence and perception an understanding that there are indeed ideas which might be considered far out, held by ruling circles, members of ruling circles in this particular country. I use intentionally the terminology of favored by the old leadership of the USSR, because I see the leadership of the United States as ruling circles. I think it's a good way to put it. At any rate, we do put this forward as information which is relevant. I do want to caution you here. I'm just a little old white man with a limited gift for perceiving, and these high ideas, these deep thoughts are sometimes a little tough for me too. So we are at one in that, if you get confused too. But let's go forward here and learn a little bit more about these guardian angels. All wars upon earth are perceived as having their parallel in celestial wars being waged by the representative guardian angels. The fate of the angelic patron determines the fate of the nation. The concept of the Sar also lends itself fittingly to the rabbinic portrait depicting God seated in judgment upon all the nations of the world, each of the nations' guardian angels, and there are purportedly a total of 70 of them, corresponding to the 70 different peoples inhabiting the earth, pleads the cause of his respective nation before the divine throne. Should the Lord elect to execute judgment by punishing that nation, he will smite the guardian angel, thereby dooming that particular nation. This is a citation from Elijah, Judah, Shachet, Amalek, the enemy within, 152, 153. Well, people, we see a way of thinking here which would, in effect, give an answer to why things happen. It is a proposal which some who are the children, shall we say, of the Enlightenment, so-called, are labeled as superstitious and sort of denounced. But it is, after all, a rationale for why things happen. And that is no doubt why it was brought into being. Incidentally, we think that this individual who wrote this book, Mr. Shachet, Amalek, the enemy within, has done a great service both to Jews and to non-Jews who are interested in this culture, because he does call to mind that there is a sinister and adversarial group within Jewry itself, which Jews have to be aware of and be prepared to defend against. Unfortunately, most Jews present a kind of a solid front, a wall of Jewry, so to speak. I won't call it a wailing wall, but a howling wall of defiance, which is presented to those who criticize and to the outside world. And this sort of a circular wall helps to protect the enemy within. And if it lasts long enough, the enemy within will destroy whatever is good in Jewry. Much as Troy was destroyed by the Trojan horse within. But at any rate, a word to the wise, but we think this particular gentleman has done a great service, actually. And although some of the ideas he presents may be thought of as comical and superstitious and so forth, they are not necessarily his, but he is simply giving this information of how this is perceived in certain quarters of a Jewry. But let's go forward. This concept of the Sar has its share of subtlety and complexity, whereas the welfare of the nations of the world is deemed to be directly contingent upon the well-being of their Sar. Israel is frequently portrayed as depending solely upon her God for her protection, although the angels, Michael and Gabriel, are also singled out as ministering to her needs. Nor are all the guardian angels equal in power. The Sar of Edom, for example, emerges as an especially formidable champion of his people, and he is featured more prominently than any other Sar in rabbinic literature. He is identified as Israel's perpetual nemesis, for he is none other than the representative of Esau, who attempted to kill Jacob, and he has ever since relentlessly pursued and persecuted Jacob's descendants. This Sar's official name is Samael, and he is inextricably woven into the saga of Amalek, for he is also portrayed as being the Sar of Amalek. Now this is a citation from Elijah, Judah, Shachet, Amalek, the enemy within, page 153. Now people, what makes this commentary so very interesting is that it is known from Jewish references, their reference books, encyclopedias, as well as many other sources, that Edom was absorbed into Jewry. That is, Edom is Jewry now. Now this is not to say that every member of Jewry is an Edomite, but it is to say that insofar as Edom exists at all, Edom exists in a physical sense within Jewry. So I think that this unfortunate situation for Jewry is being implied actually by the title of Mr. Shachet's book, Amalek, the Enemy Within. How far the bloodlines have gone, it's hard to say. Jewry, of course, is a diverse group. Jews do not now, modern Jews generally talk of themselves as a race, but rather as a religion. And it's very telling from my point of view that Jews do not care to speak of themselves as a race, but rather as a religion. Now, let's just take a moment here as a kind of sideline to this story, a consideration of, say, the director Peter Bogdanovich. Now, as I've shown in another program I produce, iVideo, there's every reason to suppose that the tribe of Dan, in part, went to Greece, Macedonia, and that particular area. They have left their names on numerous rivers, such as Danube and so forth. Now, if you consider the name Bogdanovich, you see that Dan, and it just stands out. I'm not a specialist by any means on East European or Russian language, the etymology of names and so forth, but that stands out in my mind. Dan, I don't know what Bog stands for. It may be some sort of East European equivalent to Mac or O, such as MacDaniel would be son of Daniel, and O'Daniel, son of Daniel. And as far as I know, Bogdan may be son of Dan. But at any rate, what I'm saying right here is that Bogdanovich, according to the flesh, called a Jew, may in fact be of the tribe of Dan, and that his religion, insomuch as he's religious at all, is Judaism, rabbinic Judaism. But according to the flesh, he may well be of the house of Israel, not the house of Judah. So these things are interesting and should be kept in mind, because not everyone who is a Jew is of the house of Judah, even if they're Israelites. And of course, we already know that many are not Israelites to begin with. The bloodline of Jewry was further adulterated when they absorbed the Idumeans, who were of Edom or Esau. According to Josephus, Antiquities of the Jews, Book 13, Chapter 9, Paragraph 1, and Book 15, Chapter 7, Paragraph 9, John Hyrcanus subjected them between 130 and 120 BC and compelled them to accept Judaism as a religion. From that day on, they were absorbed into the so-called Jewish race. This is a citation from Pastor Bob Hallstrom. Who are the Pharisees? And the Jews, are they Israel? Page 33. Well, there again is a pointing to this strange dilemma which exists for Jewry. It appears that there are so many of the Christian element within the Judeo-Christian group that are Freemasonic, that there is this either a sinister or obtuse leadership which apparently does not seem able to strike the right notes for their Christian flock. But at any rate, for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, this is a matter which should be concerned. For those of you who think that the Bible is just a bunch of hooey to begin with, you can turn over and go to sleep again. But at any rate, we go forward and we're going to touch on the Sars business now. However, a Kabbalistic elaboration emphasizes that Joshua was not merely a descendant of Rachel through Joseph, but Joseph's actual reincarnation, destined in a future reincarnation to become none other than the Messiah, son of Joseph. Joshua, the Sars of Joseph, was therefore able to vanquish his counterpart adversary, the Sars of Esau, Amalek, and will in the future vanquish all of the Amalekites. This is a citation from Elijah Judah Shaket, Amalek, the enemy within, page 154. Well, people, isn't that interesting? I tell you the truth, as I've said before, I'm just an ordinary sort of fellow. I don't have that towering intelligence that you would see, say, around 15th and L, where very deep thinkers with these big, heavy heads, they're sort of dragging their heads along the pavement, and every once in a while they hit a little stone, a little rock, and the heads kind of bob, and when they hit the concrete again, out jumps something profound such as E equals MC square, or pi r round, cornbread r square. I wish I did have that kind of ability, and perhaps I would understand all these things a little bit better. But it would take a really profoundly pointy head to understand this, I'm thinking. Still, in considering the matter of Joseph and this reincarnation and so forth, I could not help but think of Metatron. Well, could it possibly be that we are talking here of an incarnation of Metatron? Well, it is an interesting speculation, and perhaps one of the deeper thinkers will maybe be able to relate that in some sort of essay or other. But at any rate, I know right now that many of you are kind of scratching your head. The name Samael came up, and you probably are thinking, who or say what? Samael. Well, let's take a look at that name and see if we can make some sense of that. In his more limited and defined role, Samael is Israel's eternal adversary, locked in mortal combat with Michael, Israel's guardian angel. He is also vividly portrayed as Israel's accuser and prosecutor before the divine throne of justice. The name Samael has become synonymous with death and associated with the entity known as evil. This is a citation from Elijah Judah Shaket, Amalek, the enemy within, page 155. Well, folks, I think it's more than a little apparent that this entity, Samael, mentioned by the text cited, is none other than the personage Satan that most people who are familiar with the Bible understand. I'm sure most of you understand that too. I don't want to be patronizing in any way, but for those of you who may not have perceived that we are dealing basically with Satan, I do bring this up. But let's go forward and maybe we can get a little bit better understanding of this strange Sars. It is not difficult to trace Samael's linkage to death. The association stems directly from Samuel's intimate bonding with the serpent of the Garden of Eden. Perk de Rabbi Eliezer describes Samuel's elaborate plan to entice Adam and Eve to sin. Samuel, the tempter, mounts the serpent and rides upon it in order to confront Adam and Eve and to seduce them into transgressing God's word. Some versions of the tale actually depict Samuel as copulating with the serpent, while others describe him as becoming one with the serpent in essence, and therefore actually impregnating Eve. Intimate bonding indeed. But let's continue with this citation. This latter portrayal is highly significant. Samael is not only the direct cause for death having entered into the world because of his having seduced Adam and Eve into sin, thereby causing a forfeiture of their immortality. He is also the poisoner of all humanity, for the serpent's infectious venom has defiled all subsequent generations as well. Now this is a citation from Elijah Yudah Shachet, Amalek, the enemy within, page 155. Well, that's it, folks. A wrap. This is Celebration. My name is John Savers. I'm your host. I appreciate your tuning in. Hope to see you again next time.